Sitting right next to the line. All right. Good evening. Welcome to the Mayor and City Council meeting on May 2021. We are essentially back in person here. The attorneys virtually. We're going to start this exciting meeting first time in person in months. Our pledge to our flag. Ask Councilman God to please pledge. Thank you, Councilman. Kind of feel like I'm relearning how to learn this all over again. It is a pleasure to have all of you back and sit all with me. Here. We're going to proceed. Just try to move forward. We're going to begin evening, a few minutes, the April 7th and April 23rd meetings. I will entertain a motion to approve if desired. Is there a second? That was a motion from Councilman Haynes, second from Councilman Hale. Is there any discussion of amendments to the minutes as presented to you? Right. Everyone is satisfied. Motion to approve the minutes as presented for the April 7th and April 23rd meetings. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Nay. X. I'm going to ask the council if there is anything on the agenda that presents a conflict of interest for you. We shall move on. Up for adoption this evening for Resolution 2021-07, amendments to the personnel manual as presented Wednesday evening. I'll entertain a motion specify the motion. We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Right, we have a motion from Councilman Gotti, second Councilmember Holder. Is there any discussion on the amendments to the personnel manual as presented this evening? All satisfied with the time constraints put in there? Okay. Anything from staff that changes to Wednesday night? Right. With that, I will call the question. All in favor of approving Resolution 2021-07 amendments to the personnel manual, signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. Right. Next up for adoption, Resolution 2021-8, water allocation for May 2021. I'll entertain a motion. And a second. The motion from Mayor Holder, second from Councilman Haynes. Any discussion on water allocations? Hearing none. The motion to approve water allocation for May 2021, Resolution 2021-8, signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. Great. We are passed. Next, we're going to go to our city manager, Mr. Weaver. Do you have anything for city manager this evening?
Nothing since Wednesday.
Any questions for the city manager on his report?
Mr. Mayor, I had a question on
Yep, let's go ahead and wait until we get the mic. Any other questions for the city manager this evening? Right, were there any questions from the departmental reports? Right. That Hail Mary down in Florida. Ask if there's leaders this evening.
I do. Can you all hear me fine?
Yes, sir.
That's great. It's great to see you all back in the council chambers. I wish I could be there with you to see it. It's good to see that. I've got two items. One, I really owe the city manager a lot of of thanks. He has worked with his connections in the county regarding the Trevanion Terrace deed issue. Remember, we talked about that last Wednesday, stating that the county was, there was a tax assessment outstanding of about $22,000. And so, working with his counterparts down there, the county has agreed that they are going to absorb that cost. And so therefore, we aren't going to need to pay that, especially since we're tax exempt. So that would finalize that project once I can get the processor to record the deed. The Trevanion Terrace project will be. So great job for Jim on that. The second issue is related to email that Clara put in her packet, in your package. It's a plat, so if everybody can pull that plat out in front of it. It's the Bankert addition to Taneytown plat. It's an old plat. What you're looking at there is the intersection of Roberts Mill Road and Carroll Heights. If you can see where that goes, you follow Carroll Heights to the top of the paper, which would be north. It bends a little to the left, which would be west. And at that bend, there is a lane that comes off from the road to the right called School Lane. And School Lane is not there. When this plat was recorded, just like when we record plats today, there are planned streets and alleys that go along with that, and that is called being dedicated to the town. To make it the town's property, it has to be deeded to the town, and this piece was never deeded to the town. But because it's dedicated, we have an interest in it. And this exists not just in this spot, but in other areas throughout the town. The neighbor to that School Lane, which would be the property to the north, has requested over many years in town repeatedly that he would like to have School Lane. If you drive by there right now, you don't see that any different than it's his driveway or his lawn. He parks his camper on there. It doesn't go anywhere because the property behind it is never going to connect. So what we've called that over time is a paper out. And that property bisects the individual who's interested to the north, but also there's a property to the south. So if you're looking at School Lane, you can go left to the right. They have asked that we grant them whatever interest we have in that property, and we grant it to the neighbor to the north. In working with the mayor on this, there was a concern that the right-of-way from the property to the south be preserved. I know that the mayor has indicated that the city manager has talked to the property to the south, so in a minute you can hear about that. But what has to happen? We have a request that somebody is interested in getting this property. They produced a contract of sale from the actual owner of the property 20 some years ago, but they never executed the contract of sale to have a deed recorded. So they still don't own it, and we still have an interest in it. So if you want to do this, you would have to go through a couple steps. The first step is you would have to declare the property surplus. You can't do that tonight. We'd have to advertise it be declared surplus, and there's a period of time that has to pass for that. Once the property is properly declared surplus, then you can dispose of it as you see fit. We would dispose of this property, since we really don't own it in fee simple, we just have a dedication interest. We would dispose of this property with what they call a quit claim deed. Everybody usually says quick claim, but it's quit, Q-U-I-T, meaning we are giving up any claim we might have to the property, and we're not even saying we have one. But if we have one, we're giving it up. So that's what we would do if you wanted to do this. There's also some other ways that you could decide this, whether you wanted to divide the property and things like that. It gets more complicated. But that's the theory. The positive is it helps the property owner out. I don't know if it's a negative, but the one thing you have to look at is there are these properties all around town, and we would need to watch out whether we set a precedent on this. I'm not too concerned about that because each case can be judged on its merits of how it affects the town and the future of the town. So that's the issue before you. What we really need, or what I need, is, are you interested in doing this at all? And if you are, what would you like to see happen? What would your end game be? And then I can put the pieces in place, and I'll be bringing it back to you to say, is this right? And we could go through the steps. I know the mayor is familiar with this, and I know the city manager is, so they can probably provide some more color if you have questions.
Very good. I'm going to start with a little bit of color to it. My primary concern, what we don't see here, but if you were to pull it up on Google Maps, that school lane to the, I'm sorry, the east side of School Lane, where it says lane, is grass. That's where the property owner interested has his camper parked. The part that says school is actually the driveway to the property to the south of it. That is their entrance. So my concern is to first make sure we don't create further disputes between property owners, because now we've done a quick claim so that the property to the north now has School Lane, although there needs to be access for that other property. Their driveway is on School Lane. So my concern is if we just simply say, yep, we don't want it, it's surplus, take it. In the future, not the current property owner, but in the future, someone will be like, I actually own this and you can't use it now. And they can't get to their property through their driveway. That's my major concern with this. You know, it's not a completely unimproved property in the fact that there is a portion of a driveway on it. Mr. Weeprick, what do you have for us?
Summary, I would rely on the city attorney to steer us on the timing of those should be. We can certainly review any property to ensure that it does property to maintain access to the driveway, but the timing of the recordation of one property owner and the other property owner, I would imagine, have to all happen concurrently. So I would refer to the city attorney on exactly how to make that happen, but I'm sure we could manage it.
To me, an ideal world is we cut it in half. The property to the north gets the back half of it. The property to the south gets the part with their driveway. And that's how it would get split. Because in reality, that's kind of how it's supposed to be used going forward. I don't know that we have any real way to do it. I think when we say a quick claim, we just simply say we have no interest in the property as a whole. We can't necessarily designate who gets what of the property. And that's kind of the issue that we're going to run into.
So I can expand on the mayor's point. The city manager was kind of broken up, though, from what came through on the audio, at least with me. I heard every fifth or 10th word, but I got the gist of it. What I think that you could do, and of course, the city shouldn't be spending any money on this. Okay, so my time and any time involved needs to be recouped. And it's not a tremendous amount of time because the property owner in question has hired his own attorney and is doing the work. So it's not at a big expense for us. But if you were to say you're going to divide the property, that creates a bigger problem for everyone because you can't necessarily divide. We can't divide it because we don't know whether we even own it. And dividing the property is a subdivision, so you'd have to go through and survey it off. We could quit claim the property interest to both properties, meaning we could say we're out. A quit claim deed basically says the city of Taneytown is the grantor, party of the first part, and we could have party of the second part being north property owner and party of the third part be south property owner. And it's kind of like, you guys figure it out. But the question is, will they figure it out? And if they don't figure it out, we would be out of it, but we still, our hands were dirty with it at some point in time. So if you have an idea that you'd like me to investigate that would make you happy, I would be happy to investigate the ways to do it. But I want to make sure you want to do it at all first. I mean, if you're not interested in doing it at all, then there's no need to investigate any further.
All right, Councilman Vigliotti, go ahead.
So, I guess I'll approach this from the other side. Is there any benefit to divesting itself of this property? But then on the obverse of that, it seems like there would be more problems created by divesting ourselves of this than by holding on to it.
There would be no negative to us other than the potential policy concern, and in the greater global us divesting property. I mean, is that something you want to do? But for this specific issue, if we divested our interest in this, we are not complicating the matter. We would just be saying, well, we're out. Here's what we have if we have anything, and you guys figure it out. Which is where they are right now. So we're sort of like a check on the checklist of things they would have to do if they went forward. There's no benefit for us other than we're trying to help a citizen who, it's next to their property. We don't own it or mow it or maintain it because we don't have a deed or title to it. So it helps create, I guess the benefit is it helps create, finality at some point in time.
So, with respect to what the mayor had mentioned about things like rights of way, if we did divest ourselves of that, that does create a right of way problem, correct?
Well, it does. Essentially, if we simply do our quitclaim deed, we're just saying, figure it out, we're done. We're saying we have no interest in the property of doing anything with it, which is really true. There's nothing we could do with it, especially since there is a driveway on it. Unfortunately, we're not in a position to designate what we would like to see happen to it once we say that it's surplus.
Out of curiosity, as a property to the north and to the south, properties 15 and 16, access on the east side,
14, 15, and 16 are actually one property.
okay, so
That's
they all
correct.
are all one property.
Yep, those lots were combined.
That's not going to change.
Right. Any other questions from the council? All right, so the city attorney would like some guidance. Does anyone have feelings one way or the other of how we want to do this? Keeping in mind, as the city attorney mentioned, we do have a number of paper alleys in the city. One was brought to our attention, Commerce Street, when we were dealing with the hitch ban issue. City attorney's not so worried about precedent. Obviously, we do have the fact that this gentleman has a bill of sale from years ago, which does show that he had contact with the owner. Most of these paper alleys, the owner is probably long gone. Any descendants, if they exist, no one knows where they are. So it makes it very difficult to have a property sold and deeded to them, lacking an actual owner of the property or descendant of the owner. So this is kind of unique in that way. So I'm not so concerned about precedent in terms of decision, but I do expect that as this gets out, we may have other people asking about it as they have similar properties around them.
So I'm sorry.
I'm going to come over here. Lean up to your mic. Thank you.
Never a good thing for the individual driveway for lots. They are each individually different. My family. My brother recently sold his house, and it's a huge issue. Homeowner. So that's my take on it. I just, I think it would be a very, I think it'd be a bad way to put our citizens in this case with the I don't know.
It creates, in my opinion, a very sticky situation. That's my opinion of it. Councilwoman Fuller?
My other question was going to be, since I south, does it have the potential to put a driveway somewhere else? Smaller area? What is the reason?
Well, the driveway was put in when the area was developed. So and I don't know if the idea was the start of that driveway would become school lane and they kind of came off of it. I'm not sure what the theory was there. I'm going to pass my phone around to all of you. start down there. I have it zoomed in on Google Maps.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask, what is the overarching primary interest the city would have in holding on to this property specifically?
I don't believe we really have any interest in holding on to the property. I mean, it's unusable to us considering part of it is improved. It leads nowhere. It can never lead anywhere without destruction of other houses. But we are the holdup, because essentially it should have been ours to begin with, and that never happened. So no, we really don't have an interest. My concern is the protection of the resident.
And do you feel as if the resident would be better served by letting the property go or by maintaining the property, as Councilman Hale suggests?
Repeat your question again.
Well, Councilman Hale was talking about how maintaining the status quo would probably be the better thing to do, if I'm correct so is that, would that better serve the interests of both residents or both property owners if we did maintain the status quo?
Well, I think it would have no effect in reality. The reason being, the property to the north is currently using the back half of it for his trailer or his camper. We have not enforced any laws or anything telling him he can't do that. The property to the south, their driveway is there. So essentially, as far as the city's concerned, I don't even know that we would have known it's a paper alley, except for the map that you see in front of you. Keeping in mind, the property to the north did pay a sum of money for this property 20-some years ago, but never went for the deed.
So is this almost like a circumstance there then where we could approach this in a pragmatic fashion? Well, in this particular instance, the city does not have a serious stake or interest in this piece of property, but maybe the next paper alley comes along and the city's able to demonstrate, well, there is a viable interest that we have in this particular property, and we're able to approach them on a case-by-case basis?
Well, I think so. I think for the most part, the way that we treat paper alleys is going to come down to the considerations of all the neighboring properties. And in many cases, for example, with, I believe, the Hitchman, no action was more of a peacekeeping thing, because there were essentially 4 properties that surrounded that paper alley. And I'm sure all of them would like to have their bite at it. But of course, with that one, there were no owners available to possibly contact. So in that way, my opinion would be a vote of no action is essentially, again, status quo, peacekeeping. The way it's being used is the way it's going to be used. We kind of stay out of that.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman.
has the city attempted to light mediating at all? Do we know if the property owner to the north is willing?
Is willing to do what? Well, we're not so worried about the trailer being there.
Okay.
I mean, again, the property itself is of no consequence. It's out of the way.
Because my question is, I don't know if the property owner to the south if the property owner to the south was able to just own the alley outright, hypothetically, I don't know if he would have an issue trailer being there, but in the circumstance that he did, do we know? I guess my next question is not to sound ignorant, but if we got the property completely deeded to us, would we be able to subdivide it along the perimeter of the entrance to the driveway, and then he could have the portion that his trailer's on?
We could probably find a way to do just about anything. But as the city attorney pointed out, things like this really shouldn't cost us a whole lot of money. Obviously, there is time being spent, and we do look to recoup some of that money. But as he mentioned, going through a subdivision is a much longer process, a much more expensive process that I don't believe is really worth for essentially a 30 by
Right.
other number there. Maybe 30 by 104-foot strip of land. That's a lot of effort and a lot of money, just to hope that in the future we don't create any other issues. we can simply say we do the quick claim and put good faith that the property owner to the north puts in an appropriate deed of easement for the other property. Cross your fingers. I believe that's his intention. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So he understands the concerns that we have, and I believe he intends on doing a deed of easement. Just keep in mind, we won't have a say in how that deed reads or is executed.
Is there a possibility that if we do divest ourselves of the property, that could be a condition for the divestment, that we say, if you and this property, if you cannot figure out, then the city may have to come in, or I guess maybe not come in, but if there's a way that we can say that when you figure it out, these requirements have to be met.
Not really, and only because when we do the quick claim, we're out. We're done. We have no further say. Nothing we put in there would bind anyone to anything. So it's kind of just putting good faith into the prospective property owner that they're going to do what they say they will, and what we find is in our best interest.
Right. We may, not to interject too much, but we may be able to label, imagine it as like a settlement. We're not going to go to a settlement like when you buy houses, but imagine it, everything is lined up so that we could tell them, this is what we're going to do, and this is what you have to do, and you're going to be held to it contractually. And if he doesn't, then we'd have to, I mean, you see what I'm saying, is that it always involves us doing more, and we want to do less because this is a time and money waster for us. But if we were able to say, hey, here's the contract, and we will dedicate or deed quick claim this to you, but in return, we're going to need X amount of dollars to pay for the cost that we have and require you to show us the deed of easement, and it's going to have to be recorded. I mean, those things could be done. It's just, how far do you want to go is the question.
How he feels about it.
Right.
Have we had the conversation with the owners on the south? Have an opinion?
We have not, after the property owner to the north produced the contract of sale, we kind of dropped that idea.
Now, in the past, did you not have a conversation with?
The property to the south
South.
is, has changed hands relatively recently. It's a residential rental unit. So we certainly can reach out to them and ensure that they have no objection, provided the driveway is going to continue in use through a deed
Protected,
of easement.
right. And I think that's a due process that we have to do before we go any further, is to make sure that they are aware of this, and let them know of our intentions to protect the use of the driveway, which I'm sure they're going to appreciate. I think the city attorney, the way he described, I like. Obviously, we do need to recoup whatever finances are being put into this. So with that, I'm going to ask council, is there a consensus of how you wish to proceed now?
Can I ask just one slightly related question, just as a,
Slightly related, okay.
so, do we have any idea how many paper alleys there are in Taneytown? No, okay.
That's a Pandora's box.
I was just curious, that's why I was asking.
I can point to 3 right now, but that's, there's probably several, and most of them are going to be in the older parts of town, unfortunately. We've been fairly diligent in more recent years to make sure things are deeded to us as they're supposed to be.
So, Mr. Mayor, if we direct the city attorney and the city staff to proceed in one direction, there's still going to be a requirement for a final vote from us, or are we just having them explore right now to see what options?
Well, I think as he mentioned, all of these are going to be a process. So I think we're going to continue to hear a little more about that. Is that correct, Mr. Gullo?
Right. This is going to be, once you've decided that where you want to end up, it's quite a lengthy, as in terms of months, process before you guys can actually vote to do it. So
Okay.
it just, I don't want to start the journey if the end goal is we're not going to do it at all.
Very good. So you'll get a final bite at the apple. Right now, we're just trying to figure out how you all would like to see the city proceed.
I'm sure there's a much better way to articulate this, but I'm of the opinion that direction in which we bench the property owner in the north granting a deed of easement.
agreement or strong non-agreement to it?
Could you repeat that? I couldn't quite hear because of
Sorry. So, whatever the direction is in which the property owner to the north, point of clarification, is that bill of sale, correct?
They're the ones with the
Okay.
interest and have produced the
Right,
bill of
so the
sale.
ones with the interest, they'll be the ones to grant a deed of easement to the property owner that owns the driveway in the south.
That's
right?
correct, yes.
I think that would be the best course of action.
Right, I think as Mr. Gello said, requiring that a deed of easement be presented to us should be an important factor in all of this.
Mr. Mayor, can I interrupt? Mr. Weeper, I don't mean to seem ignorant, but what protections are in place for if they don't make due on providing a deed of easement?
That's something I would defer to the city attorney on.
Okay.
We can put protections in place. I mean, if it's the will of the council to do this, and it's the will of the two property owners to do what you're saying, then we can arrange so that everybody hold their feet to the fire.
Great, very good. All right, so the suggestion was to proceed as Mr. Gello had kind of laid out for us. We do the quick claim with the conditions that deed of easement does come back to us as proof of such, and then he'll determine what methods we use to enforce such things. In general, is the council in approval of such a thing by consensus? Is anyone strongly opposed? All right, Mr. Gullo, there is consensus to proceed with that plan.
Very good. I will keep you updated on how we move forward. The last item on my report I will save is to answer any questions you may have or give you some background when you get to the church parking lot agreement. I've had some correspondence with the city manager on that, but maybe it won't be necessary, so I'll wait until you get to that on your agenda.
Very good. Is there any questions from the council to the city attorney tonight? Okay. With that, we're going to do council member reports now. Since we're about to shift the council, albeit incumbents remaining, we will do council member reports. So with that, we'll start with Councilman Haynes. Do you have anything for us this evening, sir?
At this time, I have nothing to report, but I'll take a minute to congratulate you three. That's all from me.
Very good. Councilman Hale.
Sure, just a few things. The fishing derby is this Saturday from 8 to 12. Prizes will be given to the each group's largest catch. The Lions Club will have their food truck there and selling food items. However, they are offering each contestant a hot dog and a drink. Following Saturday, we have the Bob Flicker Memorial vacation. I just hope it doesn't rain. And it's Saturday, the 22nd at 11 a.m. with a rain date of Sunday at 1 p.m. A couple more things. Memorial Day ceremony down at the park at 10 a.m. and follow. Wow, sir.
Very good. Thank you, Councilman. Mayor Pro Tem Foster, do you have anything for us this evening?
On the economic development front, Jay Mishi has been busily meeting with all of the business owners in town. The latest of which was he met with VAPCO and had a very interesting meeting with one of the VPs there, Bill Johnson, who told him that they were really, really hurting for professional welders. And that presently they had 14 openings that they could not fill. And he asked Jay if it were possible that they could get a plan together and maybe approach the college to institute an advanced program that people could go to that would keep him from having to hire outside of Carroll County for these jobs. So I suggested to Mish that if he could convene such a meeting with the manufacturing businesses in town and they could come up with a plan, then I could certainly approach the college about this. Adding a program to the college is not a quick thing. but they would certainly look at it and consider and weigh the benefits. So I suggested that he move in that direction. On the MML front, we had our spring gathering go, and from the board meeting, reviewed and kind of approved the budget. A little lacking, but we'll get there. We had to borrow some money from the reserves to balance the budget as usual. Also, the Board of Directors approved a statement to come from the MML addressing the George Floyd incident and racism in general. That will be forthcoming. With regards back to the budget, they did save some money by the staff teleworking. And with respect to that, they received some grant money for personnel. So they're considering giving the staff raises for their work over and above during the pandemic. They had 7 municipalities apply for the training grant for the summer conference. They approved all 7. And the next meeting is at the summer conference. It's the beginning of the summer conference. On June 27th.
All right, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilman Vigliotti.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have the police departmental report for April 2021. The total number of dispatched or generated calls for service numbered 538. The total number of citations issued were 135. The total number of warnings issued were 168. The total number of adult arrests were 12, and the total number of juvenile arrests were 0. In the awards and promotions department of the report tonight, Senior Patrol Officer Sagadallis was awarded this year's National Crime Victims Week Award. And the chief forwarded an email to me that I want to share with everybody with important information redacted from it, obviously. But it speaks to the work and the dedication that Steve and our other officers pursue in their work. Each year we honor those who are victims of crime and show our support to their families during National Crime Victims' Rights Week. As victim advocates, we recognize how difficult it can be to work with victims when they are at their worst due to the selfish acts of others. Victims need support and understanding from the beginning to the end, and we want to thank you for being a part of that process. On behalf of the Carroll County State's Attorney's Office and the Victims Witness Unit, thank you for going above and beyond for the victims of our community. Your support is very much appreciated, and we are honored to present you with this year's National Crime Victims' Rights Week Award recognizing your continued efforts. The time, energy, and effort you put in for a victim following the incident that took place on date is one of the many reasons you deserve this award this year. Taking the time to follow through with obtaining the warrant to search said car and spending over 24 hours on what seemed to be just another domestic situation is exactly the type of support for victims our unit hopes to see regularly. Not just for a victim, but for many other victims that you have gone the extra step to check in with the advocates from our office, to simply see the status of a case and to notify the advocates with helpful information regarding victims, and for that we thank you. In addition, in the words of Sergeant Castellar, this is very exciting news for both Patrol Officer Sagadallis and our department. Steve has always shown a willingness to help those in need throughout his career, and we have seen the gratitude from those citizens. I'm truly proud of his accomplishments. Congratulations and thank you for going above and beyond for the victims of our community. And you know, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, so often we know that the officers are out enforcing speed limits or handling different disputes, but there's a whole different dimension to the work that they do. They're not just there always as patrol officers, but in many ways as saviors for people who are victims of different kinds of abuses. So we are truly blessed to have Steve on our police department. We're truly blessed to have the officers that we do. I think they're all incredible, stellar, professional officers. Of special note from this evening's report, on April 6th and April 8th, all patrol officers attended spring firearms training that focused on reinforcing judgment, proficiency, and de-escalation skills when faced with the use of force and/or deadly force encounter. On April 17th, Senior Patrol Officer Sakadalis attended a Stop the Bleed training course and became a certified instructor. On April 21st, Senior Patrol Officer Sakadalis obtained his American Red Cross Adult and Pediatric CPR AED First Aid recertification. And during the month of April, Sergeant Castelar completed an online FBI LEDA Basic Supervisory Liability Training course. And for anybody who's interested in what LEDA is, that's the Law Enforcement Executive Development Association. Also, the chief wanted me to make mention that May 9th through May 15th is National Police Week, with Friday the 15th specifically being Peace Officers Memorial Day, honoring those who have died or have been disabled in the line of duty. So if any of our residents happen to encounter any of our officers this week, make sure you thank them anyways. And in any way that you're able to, please pay respect for those officers who have given their lives and have become disabled in their service to our state and to our nation. Mr. Mayor, that's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Fuller, do you have anything for us this evening?
I'm not gonna lie, I was in such a hurry, I kind of ran out. Trying to think back, Jim.
Concept plans for FP Duffy and A on York Street were approved by the commission.
Permits are still coming through. That covers everything. It's been a little slow, so that's where we are now.
All right. Well, thank you very much. What I have this evening, as Council Bigliotti mentioned, it is National Police Week. This is the week, more than any other, that we show our appreciation to our law enforcement, locally, countywide, statewide, nationwide. They have very difficult jobs, and I think the least we can do is show the appreciation we have for those who fight so hard for us. We're blessed in this city to have such an amazing police force with amazing administration. I think it's one thing that we can never overstate, the job that they do, the professionalism that they show. So with that, I do wish to thank them all and wish them a happy National Police Week. And I'm thankful that we have officers who are able to do their jobs and go home safely. And I could wish nothing more for them. For council, keep in mind that Thursday, May 20th is our MML chapter meeting. I'm not sure if it's a dinner, it's definitely a meeting at Flood Zone Brewery in Union Bridge. We are in the middle of election season. Obviously, our elections have passed here in the city, but around the county, they're still going on. I know Westminster is tomorrow. I do want to add one of the changes. Sykesville, Mayor Ian Shaw was not reelected, so I do want to welcome Mayor-elect Stacy Link to the mayoral community here in the county. I look forward to working with her along with the other mayors. And then tomorrow in Westminster, we're going to end up with a new mayor there as well. So we'll just wait and see who that ends up being. With that, Councilman Hale did also mention the Bob Flickner Memorial Grove ceremony is going to be on May 22nd at 11 o'clock in the morning. I encourage everybody to attend. It will take place at Flickner Park, which is where the grove has been planted. We have some great people lined up to speak at this event in memory of the great work that Bob Flickner, Uncle Bobby to me, did for this city. So please, I encourage you to attend, and please encourage others to attend. It's such an important thing. I know his family is very grateful for the attention that we're putting to his legacy, and it's well deserved. Lots of other events coming up, so keep an eye out. I encourage you to make appearances, let people know, use your social media for good, not for evil, and let everyone know what's going on in the city. And with that, we're going to move into new business. We have monthly financial report. I'll entertain a motion to approve if you see fit.
So moved.
And do I have a second, please?
Second.
All right, that motion was from Councilman Vigliotti. The second was from Councilman Hale. Any discussion on the monthly financial report as presented to you this evening? All right. Hearing none, has been moved and seconded to approve the monthly financial report. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. And we are unanimous. Moving down to our accounts payables. I'll entertain a motion. All right, and a second, please.
Second.
Good, we have motion, I assume, to approve from Councilwoman Fuller, second from Mayor Pro Tem Foster. Is there any discussion on the accounts payables? All right, hearing none, has been moved and seconded to approve the accounts payables. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, Trinity Evangelical Lutheran Church parking lot. This was brought up Wednesday evening. The discussion is based on an agreement from many decades ago. The church is asking for financial assistance from the city for the improvements of a shared use parking lot. I do want to go to, I think, Mr. Weeprick to start out with. I know you and the city attorney had some discussions.
We did, and I'm sure that Attorney Gullo will weigh in also. But I did contact Mr. Fair, who made the request. He indicated that the contractor is willing to do the work at the price that was referenced in the letter.
Great. And do you have that price on you? Did you come prepared with that?
The price was $5,130, so half of that would be $2,565.
2,565 would be half. Mr. Gullo, I would like to hear from you, sir.
I wanted to give you the mechanics just so you can all understand what I would propose we do if you want to do this. So the concept you're talking about is splitting the cost of the paving, and then the city would be able to allow some public parking on the land. To accomplish that, I would suggest that we enter into a license agreement with the church. They would really be entering it in with us. They would give the city a license to use it for public parking. A license is less than an easement. It's not recorded. It's not in the land records, and it expires. It's like a license agreement for like a trademark, something like that. I would suggest that we say maybe the license agreement lasts for 5 years, or we could make it longer or shorter depending on the cost of expenditure for the paving or our anticipated useful life of the paving, something like that. But it would last for a period of years, and then it would automatically renew if either party wanted to get out, they could. Since any money you spend, it doesn't necessarily mean that's going to a church. It can't go for religious purposes, and this wouldn't be for religious purposes. But when you spend city money, it needs to be for a public purpose. And obviously parking is a public purpose. To show that you have met that public person, it would be perfectly acceptable to do what Councilwoman Fuller said, is to have signs posted, maybe directing people, not necessarily signs on their property, although they could put, certain spots to be parked in or not parked in. I wouldn't get into some more details as far as hours or days or anything like that. It would be a nightmare of a policing problem. And I think you would want to have no overnight parking. But then again, I think they wouldn't allow that either. So if you wanted to do this, I think you could make a motion to do two things: expend the money and enter into a licensing agreement. And I think you'd have to have the agreement in order to do the money.
Okay, hearing that, I will entertain a motion, and please specify the motion that you wish to make.
Somebody correct me if this is, Jay, correct me if this needs to be corrected. I make a motion to draft a licensed agreement to enter into cost sharing for the purposes of public parking with the Lutheran Church. Did I get, that's good? For 5 years? Is 5 years work?
All right, for a period of 5 years.
For a period of 5 years.
Okay. There is a motion. Do we have a second? Okay. Any further discussion?
Okay, the contract will list out maintenance versus total replacement and that sort of thing. That was the question I had on Wednesday.
Yeah, I would think that it would not, unless you wanted it to be. This would be purely a payment to them to do the work when they do the work, and then the right for the city to allow public parking. If there's future maintenance or striping or anything like that, that would have to be discussed at a future time, and probably after the 5-year period.
Okay. So the contract is going to say cost sharing, but it's not going to specify a percentage or,
I think that you all have to agree whether, like, based on the number that the city manager has, are you paying for half? Are you paying for whatever that number was? What is your contribution? And that's what I would put in.
that's what I would want to see, what our contribution.
Okay, so
For this agreement, it will outline, I'm envisioning it will outline the dollar amount that we're going to contribute and then specify in exchange, public parking for 5 years from that date of the agreement.
Okay.
Also, Judy, do you want to make an amendment about signs for the parking? Because I think that's probably pretty important too. I accept that amendment.
Okay, so an amendment has been put forward to the original motion to include that we wish to have parking signs erected designated as parking in the city. The original maker of the motion is agreeable to that. The seconder of the motion, I assume, is agreeable since it's her amendment as well. Very good. So the new motion.
I have a question about that.
All right, go ahead.
When we're talking about parking signs, are we talking, am I envisioning I'm going down Baltimore Street and there's going to be a sign that says public parking, to the left or to the right, however it is? Or are you talking about parking signs on the church property that designate spaces for public parking?
I personally would envision kind of the white signs with the green P that would be erected in some fashion in that area. We would come to an agreement with the church, whether it's on their property or on a pole that we own, whatever it is. Is that
right? To designate the entire area as parking.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Everyone in agreement to that as well for the amendment? Very good. So the motion now on the table is to enter into a license agreement with Trinity Evangelical Lutheran Church, paying the amount of $2,565 for 5 years of public use of their parking lot, to include signage advertising said lot as available to users. Any other discussion on that motion and amendment?
Actually, I think maybe I have a question.
Councilman Vigliotti, go ahead.
So, the parking signs themselves, I mean, do we provide them? Does the church have to provide them? Does that need to be specified, Jay, in the licensed agreement?
No, because I was envisioning that if possible, you're going to put them on our property,
Right.
directing people there. And if they have to be on their property, we would give them what would be agreeable.
Yep. I think we should provide the signs in this case, if everyone agrees.
I agree.
All right, any further discussion? Okay, is everybody clear on the motion with the amendment put forward? Okay, with that, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, we are good. Mr. Gullo, draft up a license agreement for us and make it so.
Will do.
All right, up next, we have contract extension consideration or approval for Eckers Lawn Service. Eckers Lawn has been doing yard work for us in our parks as well as remediation on properties on our behalf. And staff has asked that we simply extend the contract that's currently in place. I believe there's a copy of that contract in your packets. So with that, I'll entertain a motion, and please specify your motion. Motion to extend from Councilman Haynes. Is there a second, please? All right, we have a second from Councilman Hale. Any discussion on the motion to extend? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to extend the contract to Eckers Lawn Service signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. All right. shall move on. Next, we have special event approval. This is the Welcome Home Lifestyle Home Show Expo, scheduled for September 18th and 19th, 2021 at Memorial Park. I'll entertain a motion, and please specify. All right, motion to approve from Councilman Vigliotti. Is there a second, please? We have a second from Councilmember Fuller. Is there any discussion on the special event? All right, hearing none, all in favor of approving the special event permit for September 18th, 19th, 2021 at Memorial Park for the Welcome Home Lifestyle Home Show Expo, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Say nay. All right, we shall move on. Next, we have award of bid for the Micro C bulk storage. I'm going to begin with a motion. I know we'll have some discussion. So a motion, please, and as always, specify.
Move to award the bid. Do you want me to specify or the bid is good enough?
I would appreciate some detail if you have it in front of you.
All right, I got to get to that page.
I'd say it's page 87, but you're
Oh,
going
I got it. I may be old school here, but I got it.
old school Post-it notes.
All right, so motion to approve the bid, execute the agreement with contractor PSI Pumping Solutions of York Springs,
The amount of
$139,700.
spectacular. And do we have a second to that motion, please?
Second.
All right. We have the motion from Councilman Vigliotti. We have the second from Mayor Pro Tem Foster. Is there any discussion? No, Councilman Vigliotti, you had a question that you wanted to bring up?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just about the longevity of the bins themselves. I know in the reports, the city manager's report, you talked about how the return on the project would be approximately 6 to 7 years, but I was just wondering what the overall lifespan of the bins would be.
So the tank itself, we followed up with the tank provider, and the general life expectancy is expected to be 15 to 20 years. However, we did specify a UV exposure coating on the tank since it's going to be outside, so we may see longer than that, but 15 to 20 is the estimate. And please keep in mind that the bid award includes much more than the tank itself, and the other infrastructure is likely to last much, much longer.
So aggregate, we're looking at 9 to 13 years if you take the 6 to 7 out of the return on investment that we're going to be benefiting from this.
And that's just for the tank itself. The remaining infrastructure, we're looking at more like a 40 to 50-year lifespan.
Thank you very much, Jim.
All right. Any other questions from the council on the Micro C bulk storage bid awarding? All right. All in favor of awarding the Micro C bulk storage bid to PSI Pumping Solutions in the amount of $139,700 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, we are unanimous. Next, I do wish to make 2 nominations for Planning and Zoning Commission. And if you could stand by, I came slightly unprepared.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'll fill in the brief gap here to say every time you call for a vote, I'm still thinking I need to put my thumb up for this.
And every time I say it, I want to say, put your thumbs up, but it doesn't work that way. I just want to make sure I have all the information correct here. There we go. All right. I have 2 people I'd like to put up for Planning and Zoning Commission. We do have 2 vacancies. That is 1 regular seat and 1 alternate seat on that board. The alternate seat was vacated by Barry Guckus when he moved from the city. The regular seat was vacated by the passing of Mr. George Naylor. So with that, I would like to nominate Brad Brown to the regular seat of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I would like to nominate Christopher Miller
to the alternate seat for the Planning Commission? Is there any discussion before I call for the vote on that?
Vouch for their character, that they're good guys, that they're
They're great guys. I can tell you this. Mr. Brown has been a resident of the city for quite some time. He's retired law enforcement. I believe he has part-time work here in the city. He's very interested in local zoning code, things of that nature. He's been in contact with Mr. Weeprick on several different occasions, and I think this is a great place for him to kind of help out and be involved in the city. Mr. Miller, we previously put him on the Board of Elections, and I believe he served very well on that board. Since then, I've seen him in different occasions where I believe that his line of thinking really works to be in planning and zoning on the commission. If you recall, at the forum, he presented some questions that really make me think that he's very in tune and interested in items like this, and he's very excited to be a part of the city. So with that, I'd like to have both of them as part of our planning commission.
Well, I'll make a move to appoint both Brad Brown to the regular seat and Christopher Miller.
Very good. There is a motion. Do I have a second? Very good. Any other discussion on the nominations? All right. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Very good. With that, I'll have the city clerk contact them, letting them know that they are on board. And Mr. Weeprick, if you could also reach out to them with Jim Parker and let them know the necessary training they'll have to endure to be on said commission. Next, we have a report from the Board of Election Supervisors. I'll ask our city clerk, Ms. Cowman, to please entertain us with said report.
This is a general election report dated May 4th, 2021, from the Taneytown Board of Election Supervisors to the Mayor and City Council.
If you could move your mic just a little bit closer, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
The City of Taneytown held its general election on May 3rd, 2021 for the purpose of electing 3 city council members. The result of this election was the following 3 individuals receiving the most votes: Diane Foster, Judith Fuller, and Joseph Figliotti, and thus winning the election. Election details. The following information is a synopsis of the voting details of this election. The voter registration of the City of Taneytown is provided by the Carroll County Board of Elections was a total of 4,795 individuals listed as active voters. The vote totals were as follows: Barbara Cook, 66, Diane Foster, 239, Judith Fuller, 226, Joseph Bigliotti, 241. Election equipment and personnel. The election was held using the voting machines provided by ElecTech. Absentee ballots were administered pursuant to the terms contained in the City Code of the City of Taneytown. The personnel manning the polls during the election were the following members of the Board of Election Supervisors: Chairman William Bill Kennedy, Christopher Miller, Judy Furby, and Sue Billings, as well as Office Specialist Heather Drumheller. The election was administered on behalf of the Board of Election Supervisors pursuant to Section C502B of the City Charter by the City Clerk, Clara Cowman. A representative from ElecTech was also present in the polls throughout the day to assist with use of the voting machines. The City Attorney, Jack Gullo Jr., and various members of the Taneytown Police Department also assisted the Board of Supervisors of Election when requested. Election day occurrences. All in all, the board believes this election went smoothly with little problems. There were minor issues with a few voters not understanding how to operate the voting machines, but this was easily resolved by the ElecTech technician and members of the Board of Elections explaining the electronic ballot. In conclusion, the Board of Supervisors of Elections considers it a privilege to serve the city and the democratic process in conducting the city elections. A special thanks should be given to the city clerk for the preparation, administration, and detail work, and to Office Specialist Heather Drumheller for her assistance with absentee ballots and assisting the Board of Supervisors of Election on Election Day. Finally, we would like to express our thanks to the members of the Taneytown Police Department for allowing us to use their facility.
Very good. Thank you to the city clerk. Are there any questions on the election report as was presented to you this evening? All right, all are satisfied? Excellent. Please extend our thanks and gratitude to the Board of Elections on our
I will.
behalf. We're very pleased with the work that they did. I believe it was
council's successful election in terms of how it was carried out, and I appreciate everything they've done. And to you as well for your hard work.
My pleasure.
All right. With that, we move into administering the oath of office. We do have 3 candidates who are elected to the city council. All 3 are incumbents. They would be Mayor Pro Tem Diane Foster, Councilmember Judith Fuller, and Councilman Joseph Bigliotti. So with that, I will administer the oath of office. I will begin with Ms. Diane Foster, if you'll join me around front. All right, Ms. Foster, if you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Diane Foster, do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland and support the Constitution and laws thereof, and that I will, to the best of my skill and judgment, diligently and faithfully, without partiality or prejudice, execute the office of council member according to the Constitution and laws of this state. Congratulations. Thank you. Ms. Judith Fuller, if you'll join me up front. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Judith Fuller, do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland and support the Constitution and laws thereof, and that I will, to the best of my skill and judgment, diligently and faithfully, without partiality or prejudice, execute the office of council member according to the Constitution and laws of this state. Congratulations, Ms. Fuller. And Mr. Bigliotti, will you join me up front? Please raise your right hand. I, Joseph Bigliotti, do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
Do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
to the state of Maryland
to the state of Maryland
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and that I will, to the best of my skill and judgment,
and that I will, to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of council member
execute the office of council member
according to the Constitution and laws of this state.
according to the Constitution and laws of this state.
Congratulations, Mr. Bigliotti. And And congratulations to all three of you again. I appreciate the hard work you've done on this council the past several years, and I look forward to working with you again for the next several years. We will now move on to election of the mayor pro tem. This is done every 2 years where the council selects who they wish to have as their pro tem. The city clerk will pass out scraps of paper for the council to cast their secret ballots. Actually does so when you cast the vote that you wish. We do have on the agenda appointment of council liaisons. I'm not prepared to do so this evening. I expect to have that a little further in the future. So for the time being, continue on your current path, and we'll see what changes I decide to make to that. If you're all set, the city clerk will come back up and receive your votes. All right, as she tallies that, I do want to mention and share my thanks to Ms. Barbara Cook. She ran a campaign hoping for a seat on the city council. If you recall, she attended several council meetings before 14 months ago, and we were all forced to seclude ourselves. She always came with unique ideas, with inspiring words, and I do hope that she returns in that same capacity of joining us in these council chambers when we open them up to the public. But I do wish to thank her for running a campaign and trying to have a seat here on the city council. And I'm sure it's disappointing that she did not win a seat here, but there's always 2 years from now, there will be electing 2 more council seats as well as the mayor's seat. So everyone keep that in mind as well. Put it on your calendar. To the city clerk, do you have results of the votes?
I do. I have
Okay. The votes are 4 votes in favor of Councilman Vigliotti to be mayor pro tem and 1 for Diane Foster. So with that, Councilman Vigliotti is the new mayor pro tem of Taneytown. Thank you, everyone, for that. And does anyone have anything else they'd like to share this evening before I seek adjournment? If everyone is satisfied, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second, please. Second. All right, all in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all.